Hello, everybody out there on YouTube. We are the middle-aged guys, and we're going to continue bullshitting about Microsoft. I am the Reverend.
The Theme here.
Gray Mouse 1.
The Verge put out a very interesting article earlier this week that was talking about Microsoft and their stance in the video game industry. Right now, as it stands, Microsoft is solidly in second place. Mm-hmm. The PS4 has got over 60 million units sold worldwide. The Xbox One has around 40 million units sold worldwide, and the Switch, which has just been out like maybe a little more than 3 weeks, has a little bit around 1.5 million units sold worldwide, which is actually doing pretty well. Well, this particular article on The Verge was talking about the fact that even though Microsoft commands second place in the market right now, they find themselves in a real tough spot because they don't have any sort of exclusive titles. Yeah. Earlier this year, or actually, I think just last week or 2 weeks ago, we put out a video concerning the fact that, hey, there's been a shitload of great AAA titles that were released out over 2017. We're talking about games like Neo, Nier Automata, Horizon Zero Dawn, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Ghost Recon Wildlands, For Honor. There's also Sniper Elite. There's also Halo Wars 2 was actually put out in the middle of all that. And just recently, Mass Effect Andromeda was put out a few days ago at the time that we're recording this. But the thing is that unlike before with the type of titles that Microsoft used to put out on the original Xbox and the Xbox 360, it just seems like the number of exclusives that they're putting out on a regular basis is dwindling. And they're becoming more and more sparse. It doesn't matter if it's first-party exclusives or third-party exclusives. Yeah. Now, where this particular article became really, really interesting, because, for about the first two-thirds of it, it's pretty much stating the obvious. Hey, Microsoft is in second place, but their outlook doesn't look very rosy for the fact that they don't have a lot of exclusives. And a lot of the, quite a few of the exclusives that people were really looking forward to, they got canceled. So, yeah, that left a really bad taste in a lot of gamers' mouths. So what they were going ahead and they were putting forward is that they were putting forward the position that if Microsoft went out of their way and they're putting out the Scorpio, not only is it going to be the most powerful fucking console in the history of consoles put out on the market, but it was also going to allow Microsoft to once again be able to say, hey, look, for all the third-party, multi-plat games that are out there, whether or not your Maddens, your FIFAs, and everything else, all these games that you can get on the One, the PS4, and the Switch, if it even makes it that far, your best version is always going to be on the Xbox One, on the Scorpio. And if that Microsoft went out of the way to push forward, hey, look, we have the best versions of these multi-plat titles, is that going to go ahead and help them bolster their standing in the market as it is? Is that going to increase their share, even though they don't have those exclusives that consoles are always known for, that they always have attached to them as reasons to go ahead and own? I thought it was pretty interesting. Gray Mouse went ahead and he shared that out to both myself and the theme. We've all read that particular article. And it is a pretty interesting discussion point, which, Gray Mouse actually posed it all to all of us. Do you think this is a good idea? Is Microsoft actually going to be able to go out of their way and increase their market share and actually, maybe, if not become number one, close the gap with Sony in order to go ahead and improve their standing with consumers worldwide by putting out a great console that's going to say, hey, look, all the multi-plat games are the best on our system. Is that going to be enough for them? And that's what I lay out before everybody.
Wait. The question that I have for that is, as far as being the best version of a third-party game, will it be better than the PC version?
It depends on what your rig is.
Okay.
Well, yeah. See, the thing is, with PC gaming, that's a big, broad space, because you got high-end PCs and you got people that's running $400, $300 rigs that can still run the game. So that's kind of hard to gouge on that particular
But here's another point. Even if someone doesn't have a powerful PC, they'll still most likely get the game for the PC, maybe. Mm-hmm. So what will be stopping it? What will be stopping them from already getting that game for the PS4? Especially if somehow, some way, the game is going to be cheaper for the PS4 or cheaper for the PC or cheaper digitally, because the Scorpio is going to be a high-end system that's going to be at least $600 freaking dollars.
To answer your question, I don't think they're going to try to pull a third-party Switch thing to where the game is actually more pricey on the Switch than it is. I don't think they'll do that. I think the standard $60 a game will remain the same regardless of what system it's played on. But to answer your first question, or to continue your comment here, I think that I don't know. I don't think this is going to. This is tough. That's why it makes it so interesting. I don't think that Microsoft is going to be able to recover. If that's what they're aiming for, I don't think they're going to make a full recovery just on that, because we already know that these games, we already got history with the PlayStation 4, that the PlayStation 4 runs third-party games better than any system at this current generation. So there's history behind that. There's actually data behind that. Scorpio is coming out in December, Christmas time. We don't know how well they're going to run on that particular system. So just to go out and say, "Oh yeah, this is Microsoft saving grace," I really think that you'd be stretching it a lot. However, I do think that this might, like the Reverend so delicately put, might shorten the distance, not overtake the PlayStation 4, but I think it might shorten the distance a little bit. I mean, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Reverend, the last time that Microsoft gave us any numbers on how much units sold through to the customer was early 2016 or even maybe 2015. So, and at that time, we were looking at 35 million sold. So we have no idea between then and now. So we don't know how far that gap is. So is Microsoft going to catch lightning in a bottle by concentrating on the third party, making that the best SKU to put the game on a multi-plat, that it runs smoother? A lot of people would say yes, simply because of the power and the ability of the Scorpio, that it could probably run the game at a higher frame rate than on the PlayStation 4 Pro. It very well could, but we don't know. We have not. Microsoft has not came out with any specs on the Xbox Scorpio, so we have no clue what's really under the hood.
Here's one major issue for Microsoft as a whole. The Scorpio will be dead in the water in Japan. It won't get anywhere there.
Oh yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You look. That's big.
Yep.
Regardless of what anybody else says, your third-party games are going to run better on the Scorpio, but there are certain third-party games that will not go on the Scorpio. From that fact alone, certain games that come from overseas will not go to a Microsoft console.
Well, I mean, we have proof of that. I mean, I've been in Japan during the Xbox and the Xbox 360 era, and yeah, you don't run into too many people that own Xboxes.
So that's like games like Neo will never see the light of day on Microsoft. Yeah. So as far as third-party titles like that, you can't even get that shit on that fucking console. Well, so besides the first-party thing, you got to look at shit like that. This is the main reason why I do not have an Xbox One, besides that 2013 debacle that they tried to tether us with the Kinect and all that online always garbage, is simply because they don't have the first party for me to get it for.
But is that, and like I said before, I guess I'm going to get really a lot of hate out of this group for saying this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. Are first party games what drive consoles to be sold?
Wait. Let's stop right there. 20 days ago, approximately from this video, you both bought something called a Nintendo Switch. You personally bought that system for Breath of the Wild. That answers your question.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's really a question of first party. It's a question of exclusives, and that has to be defined here. Whether or not it's Sony themselves, Microsoft themselves, or Nintendo themselves making the exclusive game. We're talking about exclusive titles. The reason why that's so important is that this is the experience that you can get on our system that we have right here that you cannot find everywhere else. People talking about the Wii U not having third-party games. Yes, it did not have third-party games, but guess what? It still had its fair share of third-party exclusives. Xenoblade Chronicles X, Bayonetta 2,
Yep.
Wonderful 101.
Yep.
All right, these were not made by Nintendo, but they were exclusive games that helped bolster, reasons for people to go out of their way to actually get a Wii U. And they're also games that if you happen to look for on fucking eBay, those things are years old, but they're fucking expensive as shit because they're great fucking games and they make a lot of them. All right, now the concentration on like third party and then just a few first party here and there. That's how every console has been since the beginning of time of consoles. Unless you're talking about something like the Atari 2600, where everything was made by fucking Atari anyways at first, until Activision broke off. That's before Bobby Kotick and the evil fucking corporation that they became now. But, that's another story. But, the thing that we have to think about is that, is this going to work? If they're going to concentrate on saying, we have the best we have the best versions of multi-platform games on our system, is that going to work? Myself, I don't think that's a good idea, okay? And I have at least 3 very distinct reasons why, okay? First reason is this. Number 1, right now, PS4 is primary SKU. Okay, the reason why it worked out for the Xbox 360 was the Xbox 360 was primary SKU. What does that mean? When it comes to developers and publishers, they develop for that first, and they make sure that it works fine on that particular version, and then they develop for everything else afterwards. Okay? So when that happens, if the Xbox 360 version was completely fucking broken, then they didn't even look at everything else. That's the reason why, it worked out so well. Okay? With the PS4 being primary SKU, guess what? If you have a game that's being developed from PS4 and it's locked to 30 frames per second, it doesn't matter how many fucking flops, the Xbox Project Scorpio is swinging around in its edict. It doesn't matter how many flops it's going in and swinging around, laying out on the table. It's not going to sit there and become a transformative thing on the new platform unless the publisher goes out of their way and says, hey, developers, you got to put in that many more hours to go ahead and make that much of a different product. In which case, guess what? That means Microsoft has to pay money to convince them to do that. That may not always be the case. Okay, so that's number 1. Second reason why is that, unfortunately, I think Microsoft has cannibalized a lot of its own market share by doing this play anywhere bullshit. Okay. I'm not saying this as somebody who says, if you make a game, it's only going to be for one fucking console. No, I'm not that guy. Okay. But the truth of the matter is that, guess what? Gamers now, the modern household is going to have a fucking PC in it. Okay. And the thing is that a lot of the modern gamers, not only do they game on PC, but they're possibly going to game on PS4 and Xbox One and also the Switch or whatever else they have out there. Okay, they're probably going to have more than one console, but they're most likely going to have a PC in their house, especially if they happen to be somebody watching this video here. Okay, so generally speaking, what's going to happen is that because a lot of their games that they have available are also going to be available for Windows 10, you know, if somebody already has a PC in their house, unfortunately, that's another reason for them not to get an Xbox One. All right. And the problem with this here is that a bigger problem above and beyond that is that I think Microsoft is in this at this point where, as a company, they're hedging their bets. They want to know what's going to make us more money. Is it going to be dedicated PCs with Windows 10 and the Windows 10 marketplace, or is it going to be the Xbox One? Because if the Xbox One proves that it's losing a lot more money over the next few years over people who are buying shit through PC, whether or not it's Steam or not, because they have to run Windows to go ahead and have it run, they're going to abandon having to support something that's losing money. All right, that's just common sense. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3, the third reason out there, and I know people are gonna hate this, and they might think it's a conspiracy theory, but stay with me on this one. I've got a very sound, logical step here. All right, the Xbox 360. It sold 84 million units worldwide. According to the last few polls, okay, as far as dependency and reliability of everything else, the Xbox 360 had a 54% failure rate. Okay? So, if you ever wonder how Microsoft sold 84 million without being very big in Southeast Asia, you know, then that actually accounts for a lot of it. If you compound that with the fact that Microsoft every year bans systems completely outright from their fucking service, okay, that also inflates the number of units that they've sold, all right? That also adds onto the pile, okay? Now, I'm not saying that every one of those units that was, you know, failed didn't come back in a repaired status, but the thing is that the reality is that if you're somebody who got the red ring of death, there's one of a few things that happened. Either you went out of your way, you sent it back to Microsoft for manufacturer's repair, in which case maybe they sent you one back or they sent you the same unit back. Okay, maybe you did that a few times. Or you went ahead and you said, fuck it, you bought yourself a brand new Xbox 360. All right? Or the third option is that you said, fuck it, I'm not going to do this 360 shit ever, and you got rid of all your stuff and you went ahead and you bought yourself a PS3. Okay? The truth of the matter is that when it says 84 million Xbox 360s sold, that does not translate, and it cannot translate, to 84 million households actually having a fucking Xbox 360. All right? The Xbox One is sitting at around 40 million units sold. That's what's estimated by analysts, SuperData, and all the other ones who aggregate sales numbers that come in through retailers and other stuff like that. If you cut in half 84 million by 50%, it's around 40 million users. Mm-hmm. That might mean that, guess what? The Microsoft faithful, the ones who love the Xbox 360, or a lot of the dedicated, you know, Xbox 360 owners, they might already own Xbox Ones. So the thing about it, yeah, you know, the thing about it is that Microsoft does not have to worry about convincing those people to buy Xbox Ones. They already have them. They have to convince everybody else, the person on the fence, or the person who happens to have you know, a PC and they don't have anything else, or the person who has a console that's like 2 or 3 generations back and they don't have anything else, to go ahead and buy their console. That's what exclusives are for, okay? That is what exclusives are for, because if they can get everything on PC, you know, unless I really, really need a 4K Blu-ray player that's really fucking cheap and just happens to play games, you know, I'm not going to get a Pro when it comes out at the end of the year. I'm going to get myself an Xbox One S, which is going to be $200 by the time the Pro comes out. You know, that's
the Scorpio.
Yeah, or excuse me, the Scorpio. Yeah, when the Scorpio comes out, and that's kind of what they have to wrestle with right now. Is, you know, I don't want to sit there and I don't want to say I'm doomsaying, but as somebody who has experience on the development side, or experience working with publishers and other things like that, you know, I don't think it's really one of those things where the publishers are going to sit there and say, oh, we're going to stop working with Microsoft and all. No, but they've got to make efforts to sit there and say, hey, look, everybody that's out there. Here's the thing, all right? They got to market the Xbox Scorpio as the penis enlargement procedure that's going to go ahead and knock the bottom out of your wife for the next 60 fucking years, okay? That's what they got to fucking do, okay? Because the thing is, they got to sit there and say, hey, look, what I have here, you can't get anyplace else, all right?
But you know, the funniest part about that is, wait, so is there ever going to be another console wave that's going to be more powerful than the consoles that we got now? Or that's coming out? Because
no, here's the thing. That's always going to fucking happen. Technology always moves forward, okay?
But that's the point that I'm getting at. So if you're just going to be getting the Scorpio for all the power and stuff like that, oh, it's going to be the third-party games. Or wait a minute. Again,
you know, here's the one thing I gotta say about that. You know, and I'm not gonna go ahead and toot my horn as a retro gamer or something else like that. But you know, there's a reason why copies of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Turtles in Time are still going for $60 on fucking eBay, and working Super Nintendo systems are still going for $80. All right, with the controller and all the cords included. Okay, because guess what? You can't fucking play the game authentically anyplace else. All right. Oh, but there's emulation. I know there's fucking emulation. I've been doing that ever since 1997. All right. Fuck you if you say that. Okay. Look, look. The truth of the matter is that, you know, when we're pushing game consoles, all right, we have to be able, just like McDonald's has the Big Mac, Burger King has the Whopper. All right. Carl's Jr. has all the $6 burgers, you know, gourmet burgers and all that other shit, all right? When you're pushing a brand, when you're pushing a platform, when you're pushing your product, you got to sit there and say, hey, there's something that I have that nobody else has. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to this particular one, exclusives, it doesn't have to be first-party exclusives, but exclusives in some way, shape, or form have to be offered. And that's going to be the biggest reason why anybody goes out of their way to buy whatever the fuck you have. You know, I mean, I can't say it any clearer than that. No.
I mean, okay. Why, if anything, why did people get a Super Nintendo instead of a Genesis, or vice versa?
Well, I'll say right now, of course with Nintendo, there was always the Nintendo stuff, but with the Genesis, it was like, yeah, I love playing Streets of Rage. You know, I wasn't going to get that on the Super Nintendo.
So when it did come to third party stuff, there are certain third party games that were not on either system. So yeah, that was
Rocket Knight, you know,
so that
and
was
other things, yeah.
Ammunition that both systems had. You know, there was that trade-off here. Most of the time, third party is on at least two of these consoles.
Here's the thing. All right, if first party, if you're going ahead and you're looking at this like the way of a restaurant, like I said with like the Whopper and Big Mac and everything else, all right, first party, that's all of your specialty dishes, okay? It doesn't matter if you're an Asian restaurant or a Western restaurant or anything else like that, you know, these are your specialty dishes. These are the things that you do, that you say you do better than everybody else, all right? Now, the thing is that, hey, look, across all Asian restaurants, there are going to be certain fucking holdovers, all right? You know, you have your versions of noodles, you have your versions of egg rolls, all right? You have your grilled or teriyaki fucking chicken or steak, all right? That's what the third party is, all right? All of your specialty salads and other things, that's the stuff that's going to go ahead and fill all of the other places, all right? Either way, though, whether or not, hey, look, you know, a place does, I don't know, the orange chicken better than fucking Panda Express, because that's dog shit if you ask me, all right? You know, that gives you your reason to go over there to that Chinese food place, all right? But guess what? look, if I'm looking for a steak, I'm not going to be going over to my my revolving sushi place. If I'm looking for a steak, that's just how it is, and that's the kind of thing that they got to go ahead and kind of approach this as. All right, I like what they brought up in the article that Gray Mouse went out of his way to share to everybody, and I like what how they framed it and everything else. But I have real reasons to sit there and say that I don't think that's going to work out the best way that they think it's going to work out. Even with all of the extra horsepower that the Project Scorpio is bringing to the table.
Now, look, there is certain third party that's very important. Let's just throw it out there. There's certain third-party stuff that, okay, there are always going to be people that play John Madden football. There are always going to be people that play, the sports games and the Call of Duties and things like that. If you're going to have your comparisons as far as saying one is better than the other, or you just get it on this console and it'll be better than the one on this console, then yeah, that is kind of a selling point in order for you to get it, because they'll be like, all right, you can't get this on this system with this game. That's a lot that Sony is doing right now. If Microsoft were to do that, then okay, that will kind of shift the advantage, so to speak. But the thing about it is, it has to have the first party titles. They have to have them. They not 100%, but they have to have at least certain things as far as saying, okay, yeah, you can't get this anywhere else except here, and it's great, and you'll play that shit for months, years, decades down the line. I mean, hell, fuck, Gray Mouse, what was the reason why you got an original Xbox in the first place?
Point made.
I mean, the 360. Trust me, most people got a 360 because of fucking Halo 3. Regardless of what else was on it, because there was a lot of other good shit on it. You had the Fables, you had the Gears of Wars, you fuck, again. But for the most part, that's where most of the Halo games are, on the fucking 360. And people clinged onto that console, and it was a great fucking console. But the first party is what really, really supported it. But then they started looking away from that. And that's what put Microsoft, well, one of the things that put Microsoft in the position that it's in now. Not to say that the Xbox One isn't a great system or that it isn't even good. But if Shaq Fu is going to be an exclusive for it, it better blow some other things out of the water that fucking, wait, you can get Shaq Fu only on this console, but is that shit going to be good? Is it going to be great? Shaq Fu in 4K? Fuck that. Unless the shit blows things out of the water. I mean, that's just the way I see it. Even if it's third party, comparing to the PS4 or the PC, wait, this third party game sucks all the way around. So it won't fucking matter at that point.
I don't know. The idea of punching Shaq in the face in 4K sounds actually kind of entertaining to me. I mean, I can't be alone in that thought, can I?
Well, what if, wait, the original Shaq Fu, you can only pick Shaq.
Yeah.
In the story. But point, that look, all that aside, look, if they do go the route as to say that they're going to concentrate on third party, they better do it masterfully. They can't pussyfoot around it, because look, the PS4, basically games are using, look, third party is using that to make third party games to put on everything else. So if they're going to shift to the Scorpio, damn. Plus, fuck, they need Microsoft. You need to bring more third fucking party games to your console. Not having Neo, wait, huh? I can understand this by Tecmo Koei or look, I understand that, or Team Ninja, one of the motherfucker two. But still, you pass that up. You're canceling Scalebound. You're doing all types of things that drive motherfuckers away from getting your console because you don't have anything that's going to be exclusive for it for motherfuckers to actually just go and get it.
The funny thing about that is that there are a lot of these developers and publishers that Microsoft has worked with before. I think it's not completely impossible for them to go out of their way to mend fences, even if that means spending a little bit of money. Which, guess what? They're Microsoft. That shouldn't be that much of an issue. All right. There's that old story where Bill Gates was sitting in at a media conference with the executives at Disney, and Disney was saying that the company was worth so many billions of dollars and that they should be financially independent for the next, I don't know, something like 200 years or something like that. And Bill Gates walked up to the CEO after the conference and asked him, "Hey, would you take a check?" Because he had enough money. Yeah, he has enough money to go ahead and buy Disney out if he really fucking wanted to. Yeah, Microsoft as it is, they have the deepest pockets out of everybody in the console race, Yeah. And that's one thing that they've that's an advantage that they've had since the very beginning. The problem with their strategy right now, and this is what really what makes me really, really hesitant, is when they started pushing the Play Anywhere thing, is that it's become more and more apparent over the last 2 years since they even announced that they're trying to make Windows 10 its own platform and its own marketplace aside from just being able to go ahead and do PC applications. Okay, they have the Windows 10 marketplace and the Windows Universal Development protocol and everything else in place, so that people can go ahead and just make applications and programs and games that'll port directly to Windows 10, and everything will run exclusively on Windows 10. They're really kind of hedging their bet right now. They're really waiting to see which portion of the games market becomes more profitable to them. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why I don't have any confidence in grabbing a hold of an Xbox One, is that if it looks like Windows 10 seems to be where they're getting most of their profits as far as game sales and game revenue, then they'll drop the Xbox like a hot fucking potato. All right. And this is Microsoft. It's not like they haven't done that to other fucking products before. All right. Just ask anybody who's ever owned a fucking Windows phone.
I hope they don't drop the Xbox brand.
I'm not saying that they will, but
I don't even want it to get up to that point.
But as a history lesson, we got to remember that.
Wait, your point stands. I hear what you're saying.
As a history lesson, we got to remember that the first Xbox was pretty much an experiment. Okay,
True.
When they saw that they actually had traction with it, then they went ahead, they rushed the Xbox 360 out to market, and a lot of Westerners went out of their way. They flocked to it. They rode that into the ground. Literally, they rode it into the ground. All right. Maybe it was a combination of things, economic climate and just spending attitudes of people at the time and all of that. But they rode the 360 into the ground because up until that point, just like it's proving now, most game, generations, most console generations only lasted like 5 to 6 years, and that was it. The 360 was around for a long, long time in consideration. Same with the PS3 in that regard. So they rode it into the ground, and then they came in with a lot of lofty ideas, a lot of them really misdirected for the Xbox One, and now they're in the position they're at now. Regardless of whether or not Microsoft is is as profitable as they used to be back in like 2005 or anything like that. They're still a business, and they're still, they're always hedging their bets, and they're always going ahead and taking that risk assessment, whether or not what they happen to be doing is worth their time. All right. The funny thing is, though, is that even with that all said, gaming overall, if we look at things in the big picture, it's more likely that Sony is going to go ahead and declare bankruptcy first. But that's another fucking subject altogether. All right. Do we have any other final thoughts on this one, guys? Any other things that we want to go ahead and point out and throw in there for people to consider that are watching this video? Anything?
Sony
Nope.
declared bankruptcy. Oh God.
I will provide the link for that too. Yeah, I'm not saying this just because I am. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this particular conversation, it's interesting. I don't want to, and the thing is that no matter where you're at on this particular spectrum of the conversation, I would love to see Microsoft succeed more. I'd love for them to go ahead and get a more commanding position in the market, because competition is good. Just like I want Nintendo to go ahead and succeed. Yes, there's only going to be a limited piece of the pie that they can go ahead and all slice out. But the truth of the matter is that maybe pure horsepower and just relying on how third-party multi-fact games, present themselves to the public isn't the best option for them. I still think they need exclusives. Okay. But what we want to know is what you think, folks. If you can, leave us a comment below. While you're at it, hit like, hit subscribe. We would really appreciate that. Like I say, with every comment is the start of a brand new conversation. And with every good conversation, it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. As long as you take a moment, stop, and actually think about what we've presented to you, then we have accomplished much more than you could ever fucking imagine. We are the middle-aged guys, and our bullshit about Microsoft and their future and what their possible outlook and strategy for the Xbox One Project Scorpio ends right here. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
Gray Mouse One.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense, logic, and gaming, Microsoft, please don't just concentrate on third party. Put first party on your console, please. A lot of it. Look, we've made videos about this before, as far as what games that we would like to see from you in your Microsoft Studios and so on. Please, in 4K, all that multiplayer, all that shit. Please, credits.